All right, fine. Let's go back to Athens.
Yes, so...
Are we set to go? So, sorry about that, Michael. You know how it is. And today we had some good news for the Rev.
Important. It's very important to hear from Reverend Pinckney. Now, to get back to where I was, yesterday the IMF said it's walking out on the negotiations. Well, good riddance. This could be an easy emotional response. But besides that, it is a very interesting event. In order to see what that means, first of all, we need reliable information, which we don't really have. And even then, the players in this game are too many. And the whole thing is too complicated. But we need to try and simplify it. There's a theory that the IMF is simply trying to push the Greek government to accept pension cuts and the like, the measures that the IMF is shown to be pushing for. What I see is that the Germans want the IMF to be a part of the Greek program because its methods are used as a technocratic excuse to destroy the Greek economy. But the IMF needs its reputation to rebound, and the possibility of a Greek default on the IMF could demonstrate yet another IMF failure. So my first impression is that the IMF is walking out to appear as if it's none of its fault, which could only mean that the IMF believes the Germans are ready to go as far as a Greek default on June 30th. Watch out for June 30th. That's right. The date on which Greece has to pay 1.7 billion euros to the IMF that the Greek government doesn't have. Now, let me tell you a few things. There were 750 million that needed to be repaid in the middle of May. The Greek government seemed determined not to pay. The IMF comes in and allows Greece to take 700 million from a special account held in the Greek Central Bank in the name of the IMF. So Greece repaid the IMF with IMF money. Then, June 5th, again, 300 million due to the IMF. Greece says, I'm not paying. The IMF accepts a request to bundle up all June payments and send them June 30th. That's 1.7 billion. So, in fact, there has already been a default twice, but everyone acted as if it never happened. What does that tell us? Can they really afford a Greek default? I don't think they do. And I don't mean it in a financial way. I mean it in a geopolitical way. An assumption could be that the US government is afraid that a Greek default could send Greece in the hands of Russia. We can perhaps see a dispute between the US and Germany. The US wants Germany to be a subcontractor of NATO policy in Eastern Europe, while Germany wants to play its own game in the region. But the fact is that sanctions against Russia and the situation in Ukraine are far more important for the US than Greece right now. Greece is important geostrategically, but Ukraine is 100 times more important. You see what I'm saying? The US.
You could also argue it's going to be hard to extend bailout money to Yatsenyuk, right? We just had Yatsenyuk here in Washington this week. It's going to be politically hard to say here, Ukraine, not a European Union member, not a NATO member, you get 10 billion or 15 billion or whatever, but Greece, you get nothing, and you're driven out.
Yeah.
Hang on 1 second. We'll ponder that for a second. We'll be back in a minute on World Crisis Radio. Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. We've got a couple of minutes left with Michael Chiotinis in Athens. Is it the case that the IMF has pulled out of the talks with Greece as a matter of buck passing? In other words, trying to hang the responsibility, if there is a worldwide banking panic, trying to pin that on Germany. And what seems to me is the Germans want to have this low wage, or at least certain monopolies do, this low wage area of Poland, the Balkans, Ukraine. They have that in their own country. It's called Hearts 4. If you're on Hearts 4, you're living on, 500 or 600 euros plus some wretched little job you might get from time to time, and that's it, month after month.
Yes. So what I'm seeing is that the U.S. would play a soft approach towards Greece. It would try and steer Greece. Germany is trying to play the hard, oppressive approach. Violent subjugation by political humiliation of Syriza and economic bullying. Could Germany have a plan B? As a plan B, the possibility to amputate Greece from and cauterize the rest of the Eurozone in some way to preserve it? Maybe, but I think it's too messy. I don't see it happening. Schäuble thinks he can bully his way to political domination until the end of June. Right now, the talk is about yet another extension, 9 months, with some financing to avoid default and fewer conditionalities, but still in a climate of uncertainty and economic strangulation. I don't think it makes sense. There can be no more extension of this insanity. Someone could argue that sometimes you need to destabilize the enemy's timetable. You need to impose your own timetable. And
that is a principle of military thinking. Never let an oligarch attack you according to his timetable. You've got to knock them off balance. You've got to do a counterattack and somehow screw up the rigidity, because that's the thing. The oligarch is rigid, right? And if you can be flexible, you defeat him.
The thing is that I don't see a strategic retreat in these terms as the right thing right now. I don't see how retreat could have any benefit for Europe. I only see an offensive approach as having chances of success. Also, Turkey is right now an issue because Erdogan has lost all the almighty status.
Right. We covered the story. We're very happy with that. We'd like to see that go on a little bit.
Yes, the Kurdish issue is a huge internal problem for Erdogan. Turkey has shown that whenever it has internal problems, it tries to change direction, provoke war episodes to export its problems. And there have already been provocations in Greek islands, but so we need to see this as part of the whole picture. And this gives us a very complicated situation.